Hi, you are watching Voice of Canada and this is Sana Haroon. A 12-year-old Saskatchewan girl has been banned from playing for her local minor hockey association after she was prevented from using the dressing room because of concerns about sexual harassment or assault.
He brings people together in Delmany, Saskatchewan.
Put some stink on it, Burke.
But this past year, the Trehorn family became embroiled in a dispute so bitter that 12-year-old Berkeley Trehorn can never play minor hockey in her hometown ever again. She's been banned, and Berkeley and her dad Rod say it all traces back to the fact since she was 5. When she turned 11, Hockey Canada's co-ed dressing room policy kicked in. The binding rules say girls and boys must change separately, but they're expected to come together in the same dressing room, fully dressed except for skates and helmet, 15 minutes before and after a practice or game. So, for the past couple years, Berkeley has had to gear up in hallways, closets, bathrooms, even a furnace room. COVID-19 protocols required all players to get dressed at home. They could only arrive at the rink 15 minutes before ice time and had to be fully dressed except for skates, helmets, and gloves. Berkeley's coaches and team manager agreed that she could be in the same room with her male teammates for those 15 minutes. But the Delmany Minor Hockey Association said no.
As the fourth wave takes hold in parts of Canada, parents worry about the impact the Delta variant may have on children, especially when they return to school.
Vaccinated kids are ending up in the hospital. This surge is being driven by the Delta variant, a more contagious mutation of the corona. While children don't appear to be getting sicker from the Delta variant, there are exceptions. With Canada's higher vaccination rates, parents of the most vulnerable children here are especially on edge.
Canada should follow the U.S. lead and approve a controversial drug to treat Alzheimer's despite concerns aducanumab isn't effective and can be harmful.
It's the most common and most feared type of dementia or memory loss, and there's no cure.
I don't mind going into a home because I won't care. I won't have any memories left. I'll just be a vegetable. I don't want to get to that stage. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of having Alzheimer's.
At 82, Bob Murray has mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, an early stage of memory loss. Doctors have warned it may be a sign of more serious problems to come. To protect his brain, Murray says he's willing to take a new contentious drug.
My doctor said she'd give it to me in a flash.
But she can't. Aducanumab, sold as Aduhelm, is the first Alzheimer's drug approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in 20 years. Health Canada is still reviewing it. But there's a growing list of studies questioning the clinical trial data from the drug company behind it, Biogen, and critical of aducanumab's dosing and how well the drug actually works.
Got new data on the tau.
Now, leading Canadian researchers say it should not be approved, at least not yet.
My concern is whether the evidence is sufficient to show that this new drug really does what it's supposed to do.
Dr. Howard Chertko is chair of cognitive neurology and innovation at Baycrest. A geriatric may deteriorate over 4 years instead of 3. To do that, Biogen says high doses of its drug can clear clumps of protein called amyloid plaques from the brain. Researchers believe they start building up to 20 years before the first signs of Alzheimer's. For decades, studies largely focused on removing those plaques and excluded other possible causes.
Most people with Alzheimer's disease have amyloid in their brain. There's been an amyloid hypothesis that Alzheimer's was due to amyloid. If we take away the amyloid, the disease would go away, get better, or at least stop. And this does not appear to be the case.
Jody Peters' wife, Joyce, was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's at 62.
We participated in the study. We didn't get any results back.
Beginning August 27, single game sports betting will be legal in Canada. In a move many hopes will move a $14 billion per year industry away from the black and grey market.
When it comes to betting on sporting events, the Canadian government is ready to go all in.
Provinces and territories will...
The new law will go into play August 27th. In most provinces, gamblers are required to place bets on at least 3 games at a time. It's called parlay betting, and it's to prevent match fixing. But Canadians are still betting on single games, spending about $14 billion a year through illegal and offshore operations across the border to play, and casinos here want in on the action. Experts say keeping sports free of match fixing is still a priority. Today's technology.
As British Columbia comes up against another summer heat wave, officials say it is better prepared after learning lessons from earlier in the summer.
Ari Rakiat is cooking up some pad thai for the lunch rush.
I'm gonna burn in here,
Rakiat didn't work at all during the last heat waves.
It was so hot,
She's dreading the next few days.
But I have to. To make a living. Yeah, make a living, which is very difficult.
Very difficult, too, for some of Vancouver's most vulnerable. Cooling stations have been set up in the city's downtown east side. About 600 British Columbians died of heat-related causes during June's extended heat wave. Paramedics struggled to keep up with ambulance calls, and emergency departments were overwhelmed. There are other effects, too.
Just a ton of dead Californians here.
Marine biologists have been documenting the damage to marine plants and animals. Back at the food truck, things are sizzling. Ari Rakiat is doing what it takes to keep cool, trying to survive yet another heat wave.
A close-up look at how crews are fighting wildfire in British Columbia, even as the efforts face criticism for not being fast enough.
Further in, trees burn bright, while near Monty Lake, nothing but burnt black toothpicks where once there were trees. A testament to the speed of this fire when it swept through this area 1 week ago.
Down here, we call this our anchor.
Incident Commander Mark Healy walks through today's battle plan.
We have crews working up the entire west side here towards Monty Lake. Today, they will be doing the planned ignitions.
There has been widespread criticism from many in the region. Not enough was done to stop this fire when it started on July 13th. In fact, says the Deputy Minister, they responded within 30 minutes. And so from this pop-up command center, the fire crew does its best it can, urging homeowners to do their part, leave when they're told, and fireproof evacuated homes. With so much dry forest fuel in the path of the fire, the sad reality is one lawn chair might not make much of a difference.
After a devastating earthquake struck Haiti, leaving at least 1,297 dead, Montreal's Haitian community rallied to get aid to survivors.
A second day of desperate searches for survivors in the town of Les Cailles through the rubble of collapsed buildings. The magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck near southwestern Haiti, about 125 kilometers from the capital of Port-au-Prince. It's left Montreal's large Haitian community reeling. 2010 quake that killed approximately 250,000 people. Community groups are organizing aid as people try to contact loved ones. Officials have declared a 1-month state of emergency, but as aid to Haiti is organized, some worry about getting it to the affected region.
It's some way, there is only one road.
The Canadian Red Cross has started a fund for relief efforts in Haiti, but the organization says it's too soon to say if personnel will be deployed, with several questions still up in the air. Search efforts continue. There are worries of more damage coming. Tropical storm Grace is predicted to reach Haiti in the next 36 hours.
Heat waves, wildfires, and droughts have pushed climate changes to top of mind for many voters in British Columbia, who are hoping the parties will make it a focus as the federal election campaign gets underway.
Campaigning begins while forests are burning. A very real sign that climate change is on the minds of many British Columbians, and it could sway their vote. Bill Elliott owns the Avalon Inn in Osoyoos and has lost well over $50,000 in revenue this summer from cancellations due to hazy skies. A former Conservative voter, he now sees the environment and the economy as one. Of Victoria's Splash Landscape is also looking at this election through a different lens. From turning to this isn't as easy as it once was. 5% of British Columbians put climate change at the top of their list going into this election, but will that actually mean change at the polls? And despite being directly affected by the environment, with farm crops destroyed in the blistering heat this summer, there's still a large part of BC holding true to its Conservative base. But with dire warnings like that of the recent UN report on the course of global warming, one thing is clear. Stand up right now! Delivering on climate change can no longer be an afterthought.
Quebec is expected to be a battle between the Liberals and Bloc Québécois in the upcoming federal election, with many voters saying business support and the environment are among their key issues.
Business owner and parent Niloufer Al-Sherbaji will be watching this election closely. Like in 2019, Quebec is expected to be a crucial battleground, particularly between the Liberals and the Bloc Québécois. That means targeting key ridings and issues like climate change and the pandemic recovery. The federal government has helped businesses with wage and rent subsidies, but now there are new challenges.
Conservative leaders are in Ottawa released an election platform full of generous promises for funding and creating 1 billion jobs. But the glossy 160 pages magazine-style documents also plans to scrap the Liberals' child care plan in favor of tax cuts.
Outside will entice voters to read the details inside.
So who wants a copy of the plan?
It's ambitious, 160 pages with big spending to help the hardest hit sectors rebuild post-pandemic, including help for restaurants like this one. The Conservatives promise to pay up to 50% of a new employee's salary for 6 months. Once the current wage subsidy program is, there's a 50% rebate on food and non-alcoholic drinks when people dine in. It would be for just a month, but the party says it would pump $1 billion into the sector. Help for retail comes as a GST holiday. No federal sales tax on purchases for 1 month. For the tourism sector, a tax credit for Canadians traveling domestically next year. And for those who care for parents over 70, $200 per month to help. But in one of their bolder moves, a plan to scrap the Liberal childcare deals already signed with many provinces. Instead, a tax credit for childcare expenses.
Liberal leader Justin Trudeau campaigned in a Bloc Québécois riding on Monday, promoting plans for wage support and promoting the tourism industry if re-elected.
Justin Trudeau ended his day in Ontario, campaigning in ridings his party won in 2015 but lost to the Conservatives by narrow margins in 2019. But Trudeau started his day in Quebec in a riding held by the Bloc Québécois, where he promised an extension of the hiring subsidy, enhanced wage and rent supports for the tourism sector, and financial relief for cultural venues that host live performances but can't sell tickets because of COVID.
From day one, we focused on having your back.
Members of a northern Saskatchewan community are fighting to protect their local peatlands known as musket from a Quebec company seeking to mine the area for peat moss. Locals argue the mining would destroy culture and have dire impacts.
Wetlands, like muskeg, have often been overlooked as wastelands. But many Saskatchewan Northerners know that the muskeg is actually bursting with life.
And this is really good for your hair, this plant. And if you go to a new place and you have allergy reaction to the place, you wash your skin with this. And these are such small ones, eh?
Knowledge keeper Eleanor Hegland says she doesn't need a pharmacy, that there's plenty of medicine out on the land.
Now what is this plant here, girl?
The muskeg is intertwined with local indigenous culture. It is used by gatherers, trappers, and hunters. It is rich with mushrooms, berries, and of course, the plant commonly known as Labrador tea.
It's a medicine drink. And we bottle it. Old ladies make their tea, and they send their kids to the muskeg. Go find some good tea.
But these medicines and the muskeg that houses them are under threat.
At Lambert Peat Moss, we believe in what we do.
Lambert Peat Moss, a Quebec company, is proposing an 80-year harvesting plan. It wants to lease 4 sections of the muskeg land around LaRange, just over 2,500 hectares of land.
Because, hey, when I say it starts here,
The company would clear the land, harvest the peat, and then sell it for use in potting and garden soil. Peat bogs are a special kind of ecosystem. They take centuries to form, made up of layers and layers of decaying matter. They're sometimes several meters deep. The spongy bogs store water, and on the surface, they host passing animals, like woodland caribou, and they're also home to rare plants. Muskegs are also one of the world's best carbon capture systems, storing more carbon per area than forests. But disruptions like peat harvesting eliminate that natural carbon sink. And harvesting also means that those large amounts of carbon are going to be released into the atmosphere.
Keep watching Voice of Canada for further updates. Visit our website voiceofcanada.tv.